Yeah, looks good on my end.
Okay, fantastic. So naturally, with all the things that are going on lately or whatever, we are constantly moving. And as a matter of fact, this presentation, I got a hold of this presentation this morning, and it is not even out within our company yet. So you're going to see some things on here that a lot of people in our company haven't even seen yet, as we're rapidly moving to this changing environment. So, Chris, so, like it says here, this pandemic, as everybody knows, has reshaped how we do everything at this point. So, like I said, everybody's kind of re-examining what their daily routine is. I don't think business as we know it is going to ever be the same as what it was before this. So as a Legion, we are evolving this as well. A lot of new things that we're doing, a lot of different directions we're heading in, and you're going to see some of them today. So we've got a lot of innovations coming this quarter, as a matter of fact. So a lot of new solutions, and part of them you're going to see today. Like I said, at the end of this, we're going to have some hands-on demonstrations of a couple of different operators. And throughout this presentation, we're going to see some touchless access solutions and things that are going to go on. So just a little introduction to Legion. Like Chris alluded to, we were part of Ingersoll Rand up until about almost a little less than 7 years ago. We were spun off of Ingersoll Rand and became a Legion at that point. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to us. As you can see on this slide, Schlage is celebrating 100 years as a company. So we're kind of excited about that. We do feel like we have the industry leading brands. We have a lot of the pioneering brands with Von Duprin inventing the exit device, LCN inventing the door closer. So we do have a breadth of portfolio, and then we do have a wide variety of service and support, websites, YouTube channels, training facilities, things like that. So we're here to support you guys in everything you do. So like it says, you know, our new direction now is we're dedicated to promoting health and well-being through all kinds of best practices and some nice innovative solutions that we've got coming. So we've got some interesting stuff we're going to share with you. We've got a toolkit we're going to share with you at the end of this that's got interesting documentary on it as far as properly cleaning and disinfecting door hardware. We're going to talk a little bit today about our antimicrobial product. And then we're going to demonstrate and talk about some touchless, automated, and some access control systems. So first part, cleaning of solutions. This is something we've not had to deal with previously. So now we're into putting out documentation about how to clean and disinfect door hardware. So we've got some links here, and on the little toolkit that we're going to send you later, there'll be several of these links on here that you can click on and go to these various things as far as how to see this. I'm not going to read all this word for word, but we do have publications now that talk about how to clean and disinfect our hardware. So this is going to talk about our antimicrobial solution. So we've had this for years, but naturally in light of recent events, this has come to the forefront. So this is available. It's a silver ion coating that we can put on various different pieces of hardware, exit devices, Schlage locks, door handles, push plates, pull plates, you name it. It's not on everything, but we do have this as an option on a lot of pieces of our hardware. Naturally, the schools that we deal with, you know, we deal in kind of high-end hardware, high-end, high-abusive hardware of all kinds. Our best customers are schools and hospitals and things like that, where it's high traffic, high abuse. And the amount of inquiries coming in about our antimicrobial solutions is unbelievable right now. So you see in a solution sheet here on the right, and it talks about the different capabilities. This antimicrobial solution is really just designed, like it says, to inhibit the growth of bacteria by interrupting cell multiplication. There is a disclaimer down there that we make no representations or guarantees, express or implied, as to the effectiveness of antimicrobial in protecting against virus classification of infectious diseases. So it has been somewhat proven that in light of this virus going on right now, it's not that effective on that, but it does help inhibit the growth of bacteria in any other all cases. So you'll see that brochure. We'll make sure and attach that brochure as well as the toolkit I'm talking about later on. So talking about delivering solutions. So We are now at the forefront of trying to do a lot of touchless technology. So we're going to try to do our part in helping prevent the spread of these things. Contact transmission, either by direct or indirect. And it talks about the different things, how viruses can survive on metal, glass, and plastic for up to 9 days. These are things you probably already know. So part of what we're going to see today is our touchless door hardware and solutions, where we can try to help, enter this touchless environment. We have several different solutions we're going to show you and talk about today, so as well as automatic and as well as manual solutions. What are some of the common applications? These are pretty self-explanatory. The multifamily environment is concerned about it. Healthcare, there's no question they're concerned about it. Commercial, I think the new office environment is going to change dramatically from what we know it was 2 months ago. We're already ready for that change. And then education. Like I said, education, the schools are inquiring with us all the time, constantly about our antimicrobial and some of the things that we're going to talk about today as well. So, talking about touchless access, most of what we're going to show you today involves automatic operators. So the idea with touchless access is doing touchless actuators or maybe multi-tech readers for access control and things where you can swipe a card or just get near it with a Prox card or a smart card and then wave to a touchless actuator trying to keep you from touching anything on the opening. It mentions low energy automatic operators. That is what we are going to focus on primarily. Low energy. We don't get into high energy. If any of you guys are into high energy, you'll know that high energy comes with a lot of liability and a lot of rules and laws and things like that. And you pretty much have to be what they call ATOM certified to be into high energy. For practical intents and purposes, for most locksmith accounts and things like that, low energy is the way to go. The differentiation being high energy is like what you see on the front of hotels and stores and things like that pretty much have gone to sliders now. But any of you been around for a while, you remember the old days of grocery stores where you walk up and they were swing doors, but they had guardrails and mats and safety features and things like that. So that's what is involved in high energy. That's why we don't get into that. Most of you guys probably won't get into that either. So by low energy, what low energy means is our operators cannot exert more than 15 pounds of force in their opening sequence. That way they don't knock down elderly people, things like that, and cause harm. So that's what defines low energy versus high energy. So actuators are just, that's our series of actuators, buttons. We've got square ones, we've got round ones, we've got radio frequency, we've got touchless. You'll see some more of the touchless ones here coming up in a minute. We can also pair these with access control. You're going to see some examples of that. So the new thing now, access control, where you can come up with your card hanging off of your shirt or in your pocket or whatever, and it can read you before you get there. You don't have to touch anything. And then paired with an automatic operator and electrified locking devices, you can create a completely touchless opening. So in the auto operators portfolio, and we might need your camera here. So what we're going to talk about today is two different types of operators. So we have a pretty full gamut of automatic operators. And you see in red here where we have electromechanical automatic operators as well as electro-hydraulic. And some of the difference being, we'll demonstrate these a little bit as well. So with electro-hydraulic, what that means, can we see that, Travis? Just to make sure. So with electro-hydraulic, you see here we've got your standard LCN 4040 door closer, hydraulic door closer. So in this automatic operator, when you go through it manually, you're not actuating or interfering or integrating with any of the electronic products here, any of the motor or anything like that. It's just like going through a standard door closer. So that is what we mean by electro-hydraulic. And where these come in handy is with an opening is primarily going to be used for manual entry and exit and things like that. This is not any different than a standard door closer, but when you need it for automatic operator, you can use it as that as well.
I wonder. So we stop sharing and showing the full screen. Are you guys able to see that?
They're not. I mean, they see it in a small screen, so
maybe better off to do that. But hang on a second. Let me just stop sharing real quick. Because if I do this, and If I pause share, right? If I pause share, does that pull up our full screen? Travis, or no?
No, I'm still seeing the screen share. You may have to actually, yeah, get out. There you go.
And then you'll have to put us to full screen, I guess.
Yeah, you're good. As long as I'm quiet, it'll just be you guys.
Okay, so you can see us full screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so now that we've got a bigger screen, hopefully, what I meant by electro-hydraulic is when you go through this door manually, it's no different than just a standard door closer on it. So any opening that's primarily manual, you would typically use an electro-hydraulic unit. So you've got manual door closer going through it manual, and then when you need it to be an automatic operator, it'll do that as well. On this one, for example, this is an electromechanical. So when you go through this one manually, you're also winding up the motor and turning gears and turning belts and things like that. So a lot more resistance on this one when you're going through it manually. A good example would be like a student center at a college campus. Student center at a college campus, you'll find out that most, probably 80% of the students that go through that go through it manually. If you had the heavier electromechanical closer on that, they're typically going to get a face full of door, and they're not going to be happy about the extra resistance that go on with that. And students, that's why I use that as an example. Most students are not going to take the time to stop and push a button and wait for the door to open. Things are going 90 miles an hour on a campus, and they're going through them. And I know that from experience. I've had both operators in situations like that, and I've gotten lots of complaints out of architects and things like that for not having the right operator in there. So that's why it's important, I feel, to explain to you what the difference is between electro-hydraulic and electromechanical. Do I have my screen back? So that just kind of shows some of our different operators. We've got different price range operators. We've got, like I said, electromechanical, electro-hydraulic. They're all low energy. All of these operators are low energy. So we'll talk a little bit more about them here in a minute. So when it comes to no-touch actuation, so we do have examples of that as well, and we'll demonstrate some of those here in a minute as well. But a lot of these, because of the nature of what's going on, you'll see some asterisks after some of those part numbers on these. These are brand new products that we're adding to our portfolio to help enhance what we offer as far as touchless actuators. So currently we do have a standard LCN one, the top middle one, and we do have the bottom left Locknetics no-touch actuator. And we're going to add these other three to the portfolio, and you'll probably see more coming soon. You see that little note at the bottom right, coming soon in Q2. So more actuators to follow. So these are due to come out about any time now. We also offer a full array of motion sensors and actuation, especially at hospitals. When you see, if you're walking down a corridor of a hospital coming up with double doors, a lot of hospital applications will use an automatic sensor like this because they have been kind of touchless for a while. So when they are running down the hall with a gurney, they don't have time to stop and hit a button, nor do they want to stop and hit a button. So they are, most hospital type applications are going to use a sensor where it detects you coming, and by the time you get there, the door's open. So we have a full array of sensor packages as well, just depending on what your application calls for. We also have some transmitters and receivers. These are also utilized on our buttons as well as pocket transmitters and things like that. The whole bottom row you're seeing here is a new line of transmitters we're coming out with on a 900 megahertz frequency. So these are coming out just about any day now as well. The reason for going to 900 megahertz is we also use that technology on some of our wireless electronic locks, and 900 megahertz will actually penetrate walls and obstacles a lot better than anything else. So as far as 2.4 gigahertz or anything like that, the 900 megahertz will penetrate walls. You'll get better range out of it. So that's why we're coming out with these 900 megahertz. You'll see some demonstration examples of this here in a minute as well. But just realize a lot of situations you may put an automatic operator up in an aftermarket retrofit scenario, and it's a little hard at that point to run wired buttons, especially out to a bollard. If you need a bollard out about 20 foot in front of the door, you can still do a bollard now, but you will utilize wireless receivers and transmitters and make those totally wireless. So, a lot of good things there.
I guess before we move on, there's a couple of questions.
Okay.
So Glenn was asking, can the touchless actuator be retrofit to push to exit setup?
Absolutely. As far as the operator is concerned, the touchless actuator is no different than a button that you have to push on. So the same wires go to the operator. It's just the touchless actuator will need a power source. So a small power source, and all of our operators do have additional power sources on board for such things. So yes, you can, if you have a scenario where you've got push buttons now, you can go in and pull those push buttons out and do touchless actuation. The problem you may get into is how to do it wirelessly. So I'm not sure at this point. I'll have to investigate how we can do that wirelessly if it's a wireless situation where you're using receivers and transmitters. We'll have to do some research on that and get back to you on that one.
Okay. So one other question, this is from Stefan. If electromechanical is harder to open than electro-hydraulic, what are the circumstances where you would choose to use the electromechanical over the electro-hydraulic?
That's an excellent question. Like I said, the electro-hydraulic would be a good application. Is like student centers on campuses where the majority of the traffic is going to go through the door manually. Electro-hydraulic is like in the hospital scenario I cited, where the 99.9% of the opening is going to be done electrically, because you're going to have scanners and things like that. It's going to be what we call a passive opening. So you don't have to do anything to open those doors. But that's the difference, because in a hospital environment with double doors going into ERs and things like that, very rarely will anybody go through those doors manually. So they're usually scanners down the hallway that'll pick you up and have those doors open by the time you get there. So that's kind of the two different scenarios. Hope that answers that question.
Okay, great.
Here's one from Ben. What defines a harsh environment? Does outside in the rain count as harsh? It definitely counts as harsh. Most of these operators are designed to be inside. All the readers in our electronic locks and things are rated for outdoor use. Not necessarily gates, but definitely exterior openings. Usually by, oh, you're referring to the switch. All of our actuators are able to be utilized in an outside environment. You know, maybe not outside on total rain. Most bollards that I see them used on are under some kind of overhang or whatever. The problem you would get into with a touchless actuator out in the rain is the rain is allowed to signal and trigger that touchless actuator. So you'd have to be careful there. Hope that answers that question. Any other? We're all good.
That's it for now. Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, remind us, Travis, because we can't see that on our deal or whatever. Maybe he'll keep it up there.
I'll keep it on my other screen.
Okay. And then hopefully Chris will answer some questions and stuff while I'm doing this. So as far as contactless reader portfolio, what you're seeing here is our newest, latest, and greatest readers. We do pretty much all of our readers now are multi-technology. So we can do multiple different technologies on our readers when it comes to access with touchless systems. So these particular readers are Bluetooth capable, they're Prox capable, they're smart card capable. And it kind of makes a mention over there to Allegion's open architecture ecosystem, enables PACS providers to seamlessly work in our environment. We decided about probably 10 or 11 years ago that everything we do when it comes to electronic locks and readers and things like that is going to be what we refer to as open architecture. Our big saying at the shows is our everything works with most anything. So we decided a long time ago, if you're not open architecture, and by open architecture, I mean that we're compatible with all the major software providers out there. Pretty much anybody you mention, Seaboard, Paxton, Brevo.
Oh, yeah. Software house,
Carry.
Carry.
Yeah.
You've got, they're pretty much, right now our alliances page has 45 different patch partners on there, and that's not actually everybody, but I mean, pretty much any major access control system out there, we've got some integrations with.
So that's what we decided years ago, and we think that was a very smart decision on our part to be open architecture, because if you take any college campus, you pick any college campus, no matter where you're at, they're probably pretty much ingrained in a particular software platform. And if your stuff doesn't work with that particular software platform, you're locked out of that campus. So as far as like you guys are customers, you know, we try to stay open architecture. So if you run across that scenario, you can integrate into those software platforms. Most of the time it has to be through the integrator that's in charge of that particular platform. But point I'm trying to make here is we are open architecture with all of our products. All right, I had to get a drink of water. Ooh, I'm locked out.
No, you're not.
Okay. Naturally, we offer a full credential portfolio as well. We can integrate into a lot of existing HID facilities and things like that and continue on their same scenario. So we have contactless credentials as well as passive credentials. We've got a new Bluetooth mobile credential that just came out last month. So all sorts of different ways we can do there to integrate into a touchless environment. Oh, too fast. Make sure I didn't go too far. Oh, I did. Jumped. So as far as accessory products, naturally with a touchless opening integrated with an automatic operator, you have to have some electric strike and electric accessories to assist in that opening. We have to be able to unlock the door before the operator can open it. So there's a multitude of different ways of doing that. So when it comes to electric strikes, we have a good variety of competitively priced electric strikes with the Von Duprin line and our newest line, Locknetics. So a lot of our locksmith partners that we have that HL Flake definitely deals with, and HL Flake is a big inventory provider of our Von Duprin and Locknetics products. Sorry. So a lot of times you may have to use electric strike. You know, most of what probably you guys do is a retrofit scenario. So that's kind of what we're concentrating on here today is, you know, what is applicable to the retrofit scenario. Electric strikes definitely are. When it comes to exit devices, you'll see a lot of code issues where you can't use electrified locks or things like that, and you need to use an electrified exit device. So we have two different major manufacturers of those. We have Falcon and Von Duprin, and you'll see mentioned up there in the top where not only do we have the Von Duprin QEL, which is our quiet motorized EL device. Formerly we had the solenoid. You'll see a demonstration of our solenoid device here that's kind of going by the wayside. So it was a big power hog, had a big inrush. There were a lot of issues with retrofitting the exact power supply with it. So with our QEL, we can now retrofit with just about anybody's power supply. Same way with the Falcon. We just introduced the Falcon MEL. So it is also a motorized electric latch retraction device as well that will retrofit with just about anybody's power supply. Some more accessories naturally for an electrified opening. You're going to need a transfer device if you have an electrified device on that door. We have a lot of different ones of those. We have our Von Duprin EPT as well as a variety of door cords priced all differently depending on what the scenario calls for. Naturally, you're going to need a power supply. A lot of times you'll need a door position and request to exit switches if it's tied into a third-party access control system, as well as a scanner of some sort. So a lot of times you may need a passive scanner to put on there. That way somebody doesn't have to push a button to get out now that we're into touchless openings and things. As far as manual touchless access, this is all brand new to us. So we have our IVES category, which is all of our flat goods and door pulls and things like that. So what you're seeing here is a brand new variety of products for coming out of our IVES manufacturing. Door pulls, elbow pulls, forearm pulls, hand tools, and then foot pulls like what you've kind of seen a little bit of. I think this is going to be the new standard going forward is all of this kind of pull stuff. So we have these in production as we speak. They're not released yet, but we are working on them feverishly in this new environment. So with that, we're going to send you a touchless access toolkit. Don't go there yet. So this does give you our support website at the bottom as well, but this is some links on here to some wiring diagrams and riser diagrams on some touchless actuators, and then using a reader as an actuator. And we're going to scroll through a couple of these here in a minute, just at least you'll see them and know what they are. So this is kind of an idea of some of the stuff we're going to send you. So won't go through this a whole lot until we'll send you this info kit. Talks about our service and support. No surprise there. 20-something local offices. We've got a lot of technical support. We've got electrical security engineers like Chris here. He has been a godsend to us. So in this day of sophistication with access control and things like that, you know, us sales guys, we're kind of yes men. We'll say, yeah, we can get that done. We can do that. And then some things that we might overlook that cause serious issues down the road, that's what our buddy Chris here is for. We also have the same talent in South Texas. We have a gentleman down there, and several of our local offices have the same thing. So that kind of keeps us out of trouble. And this is going to go through some of the, just to breeze through a couple of these. So we're going to show you some different wiring diagrams and things like that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these, but just, you know, latching interior door hardware integrated with operators and a fail-safe drive. Very complicated opening there, but that's a double egress fire rated pair that you would see in a hospital. Exterior doors, things like that. If you guys have any questions on this, these are active links, and we'll that info kit we're going to send you, or at least put up there for you to download, is going to give you all these links to various things like this where you can see these. So that being the end of the presentation, we're going to do some live things here now to demonstrate some of the stuff we talked about. Yeah, we can do that while you're there. Can you bring that up? Yeah, let me bring this up. So we're going to kind of breeze through this info toolkit, hopefully.
Share this guy.
Excellent. So this is the toolkit we're going to send you. So we're just going to kind of scroll through this real quick, but it's going to give you some ideas of some of the stuff we just talked about. And there's some various links on there to different websites and things like that. So just want to kind of highlight this for you. This is something brand new we just came out with too. Our lovely new environment we're dealing with.
We'll send a link to Travis for this, so you can see this PDF, and then so that you'll have this as well. Just scrolling through.
Yeah, just to kind of give you an idea. It's a 6-page document, but it's got a lot of great information on it. So
there you
go. All right, let's go live.
All right. All right, so you should be full screen now, right? Just give me a yes in the chat box if you guys are able to see full screen and see Lloyd's lovely face. All right.
Wait.
All right. So some of the things you might man the camera on this.
Where you want to go?
I'm gonna go over here to this door first.
All right, I'm gonna switch video to my phone, just so I can walk around. Let me stop video here.
I stopped it.
We did? All right, awesome.
Can you see that?
You guys are able to see my phone as I'm walking around, right?
Yep.
All right.
So we're in our training room here at our office in Plano, Texas, and we have designed this training room to be a working educational environment type room. So we have a lot of things set up in here. We are very open to bringing in all kinds of facility people or locksmiths, things like that, and do trainings in here. We try to have corporate trainers come in once a month. So we have this room set up where we can demonstrate a lot of the products that we talked about. So, you know, we talked about wireless actuators. This is an example of one here. So this is our door that goes out to our kitchen. So we can just wave our wireless actuator, and we have an electric strike on this door with an access control device with a non-different exit device. Outside.
There's your operator. We're gonna step outside. The volume may get a little low.
So we didn't want to talk out there, but that was our Bollard actuator. So we actually have a Bollard actuator, as you saw, that you can run into with a wheelchair, or you can kick it. We have that out there because we come from our kitchen. We might have a drink in one hand and a plate in the other, and we can just walk up and kick that bollard and actuate that door. Some examples of access control.
Sorry about that. Turn my phone sideways, better view. I apologize. Close time, field adjustable. Yes, that's all in the closure. So sideways again, there's your wave to open, just to give you guys a quick, shows the operator, shows function. There's your strike. There's your Bollard operator. Just push it and it clicks. So moving over here to what Lloyd was showing now.
So an example of access control. So with my Prox card, I can just get near that reader and it will unlock the door and signal the operator to open the door in the touchless scenario. You can also utilize the keypad, but the keypad doesn't do much for you as far as touchless, but demonstrate some solutions there. This particular training room, when we have instructors in here, you can see our main door that we showed you was closed. So if an instructor is training in this room and it becomes break time, he can usually have a remote in his hand. And what this remote will do is actuate that door. It'll open that door so we can have break time and we can go in and out of the kitchen, go to the restroom, do things like that. So, and that door is going to stay that way until I hit this remote again. So however long the break needs to be, when the break's over, hit the button and signal the door to close, class resumes. So same way with an office type environment, you can utilize that same scenario in an office environment.
With that same scenario, right, I want to show we also have a wireless button on the desk that functions the same way. So we have that tied in, so it kind of gives you you have multiple options.
And these are radio frequency actuators we're utilizing here. So can you see we actually have the receiver up on top of that operator. I don't know how clear that's going to come through, but there's a receiver on top of that operator. You can actually, if there's room as well, install that receiver inside the housing of that operator. And that is communicating radio frequency wise with these actuators we have on the front desk. That's kind of why we're excited about our new 900 megahertz actuators coming out, because with these radio frequency our transmitters and receivers now, you're limited to about 20 foot, give or take. So when you put that behind a push plate kind of scenario too, you kind of limit that range. So we're kind of excited about the 900 megahertz.
Let's start this video back up. You want to start my big video back up, Travis, and I'll stop the phone. There we go.
We're on the camera now.
Yeah, now we're back on this one.
So now what I would like to kind of showcase with you, out of all of our operator portfolio, I have our two top selling best operators to demonstrate. I have an extremely high-end one, and then I have a low-end price-conscious operator. So what I wanted to show you first is the very high-end one. You won't find a better operator on the market. This operator is, we have, I don't know how many campuses around at least the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Houston area that are no sub on these operators. This is the only operator they'll pick. So the first one I'm going to talk about is what we call our LCN 4600 series. It's an extremely versatile operator. It's extremely heavy duty. It's one of the Electro-Hydraulic, so you can put it on the door when they walk through it manually. There's not going to be a whole lot of resistance. It has a multitude of features, which we will demonstrate here in a minute as well. And one of the great things about it, when you get it in a box, there are 3 boxes in that box. So the first part is what they call a base plate. So this operator is, there's only 2 versions of this operator. It's a push side operator or a pull side. And the only difference is the pull side is going to use a track and an arm, where the push side is going to use the standard double lever arm. The exciting features about this operator is it's non-handed. So you can see mounting holes here. It'll mount on as small as 1 3/4 header on a door frame. We have staggered mounting holes top and bottom. So depending on what hand it is, you just flip it over. We make it componentized like this, so you can see how light this is. If you're going to install this thing and you're going to be standing on a ladder and things like that, it makes it a lot easier to install. the greatest feature entirely about this operator is this is the actuating mechanism. So this is a magnetic clutch, much like kind of an air conditioner on an automotive engine things. So that's what makes it totally bulletproof. So with this operator and it being a magnetic clutch, it'll take all kinds of abuse and not tear up. Whereas a lot of the operators out there are similar to this one, where you see motors and belts and gears and things like that in this one. So this one, when you start abusing it, you could actually, you know, throw the belt off the cog or strip some gears or things like that. So that's what really differentiates this operator. Makes it extremely heavy duty. So just to give you an idea, once you get the base plate on the door, then at that point, and if you disregard this part I'm holding here, this is just a standard 40-40 mechanical closer. So that's what's nice about this operator. So at that point, install the closer body part. I'm not going to put all the screws in this just for demonstration purposes. Once you get that in, the motor assembly and the electrical connections are already in this. And then this is the brains of the organization. We're going to do a demonstration here in a minute and show you all the different things you can do with this operator. Now, there again, this is a very high-end operator. This operator list price is in the $5,600, $5,700 range. But like I said, you won't find a better operator. If you're going to put your name behind it, you can't go wrong with this one. So once you get the control box in, we're going to hook up all the good little wires here. Oop, I trapped one. So now that we've got the control box in, we've got it hooked up. We do have a power cable, so you will need to run power to it. Another nice thing about this operator, being componentized, and I'll set this over here, all of your terminal strips will snap off, so you can put your wires on and everything without torquing onto the board itself. And then when all the wires are connected, just snap it back in. So we are all wired up here. I'm going to plug it in. Hopefully we won't see the mysterious blue smoke. So we're powered up. It does have a series of error codes. If something is wrong with it, when you power it up, there'll be some error codes. Are we okay there, Travis?
Brenton's not muted.
Uh-oh, there he is.
There he is.
So now once we have the control box in, we wire some things up, install the arm, and it's ready to go. So I already have this pre-wired to an actuator here. I also have it tied into an electrified exit device or traction unit. This is our old solenoid version. So just to kind of show you, and I picked the solenoid version because when it retracts, you're going to hear a definitive clunk, unlike the motorized version. So this will give you an example. I don't have a touchless actuator wired to it, unfortunately, but I do have a handicap button. So when I push the handicap button, it's going to unlock the exit device first, then it's going to signal the operator. And the operator has all the technology in it to delay that as much as we need to delay it. So it gives you an idea there. So like I said, this is an electro-hydraulic unit. So at any point, this thing is just a standard door closer. It's not a big deal at all. And I don't know if I can demonstrate the magnetic clutch without flipping this thing off the table. But like I said, what's good about this is you can abuse it. Can't tear it up. It's got a magnetic clutch, and all you're going to do is slip the clutch. So it's a very high adhesive operator. You'll also see another thing it's got what's called a 90-degree slowdown. So as you saw on that door across the way, as it gets toward the end of the opening, instead of just going full speed all the way and slamming the wall and bouncing back, it has a 90-degree slowdown that is totally adjustable from this menu board. If you need to adjust, I think somebody asked a while ago, maybe about hold open time and the closer time adjustments. So let's see how long this one's holding open. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. So that's a very quick. ADA compliance requires that this thing be open for at least 8 seconds. So at that point, we go into our menu and I toggle to hold open time, and then I have a digital display here. So I'm going to crank it up and I'm going to toggle out of my menu options, and it's going to hold for a lot longer time now. So a while ago it was 4 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006. So see, we got a little more hold time, but that's how easy it is to adjust the hold open time. I know you can't see this, but the different menu options here are hold open time. We have our 90-degree slowdown time that I talked about. We have a one-shot input. What the one-shot input is how we were able to open our training room door and make it stay open until we hit it again. One-shot input makes it close. We also have exterior mode, so that is kind of if we tie it up to safety sensors and things like that, which you really don't need on a low energy operator, but we do have that capability. So we have electric strike delay, different things like that. So we do have sequential action time. So if you have these operators on a, what am I trying to think of? Front of a building with 2 sets of doors, drawing a blank.
Like a
2 sets of doors. What am I drawing? Anyway, I'm drawing a blank. So you have doors.
Vestibule.
Vestibule. Sorry, had a brain slide for a minute there. So in a vestibule situation, you have your exterior doors and you have your interior doors. Doors A, doors B. So we have the ability to sequence these operators. Somebody hits the actuator from the outside starts opening, and by the time the outside's almost open, the inside starts opening. Kind of comes in handy with climate control and things like that. So there again, this operator has all that capability to it. Okay.
You also will see when coming down to sequential, when you get into access control as well, because there's sometimes you have to do a sequence of events, especially with, when you badge a door, you need the strike to open, then you need a certain amount of time for somebody to back up from the door, depending on the situation. So there may be times that you're using that as well. Having it built into it makes life so much easier, because if you don't, you get an operator that does not have that built in, then you have to start using timers and delay sequencer timers. They are not easy to wire, and it just gets a little confusing. So just wanted to bring that up so you can understand what this offers compared to some of the other ones on the market.
So that's our high-end operator, our 4600. It's kind of nice also, so once it's installed, if you're ever having to work on these in the field, all of the wiring diagram is on the inside of the cover. So that way, if you run across this in the field, you have your complete wiring diagram there if you have to add actuators or anything like that. You could also acquire those on our website too. Just anything we have is on our us.allegion.com technical website. All kinds of documents, data sheets, instructions, installation manuals, programming manuals, you name it. So with the electronic products we're using here, we have a power supply hooked up. So now we're going to talk about our Falcon Operator. This is our economy line operator.
So Lloyd, just to pause, there's a handful of questions in the Q&A. Should we take us a minute? And
sure.
Some of them are probably specific to what you guys were just talking about.
Okay.
Let's see. Ben has a question. So he was asking about this is probably going back a few minutes, about 10 minutes back. Where is the intelligence for the remote? Is it coming from the access control or the opener or somewhere else?
The intelligence for the remote that we talking about, the remote that operates the operator?
Yeah, probably when you were demonstrating that.
That is a simple transmitter and receiver remote, just like you would have on a gate, just like you would have anything else. It's just a simple transmitter and receiver. So it's all built. The remote is the transmitter. Your piece on top of the operator is your receiver, and then there's just a wire going into the operator, and that's what's triggering it. So it's just a simple process.
Yeah, that receiver on top of that operator has got 2 wires coming out of it that's wired into the control panel on the operator, just like a wired actuator is. So it's just the receiver is what's hardwired into the operator, and it's communicating with the transmitter via radio frequency. Hopefully that answers that one.
Okay. And then going back a little further, even this is a question from John. If we move from push button door opener, so rather than a push button, would we use the request to exit sensor or the sensor shown earlier that you mentioned hospitals using? So I don't know if it's kind of hard to follow that question because it was a little
Nope,
wild pack.
I think I know exactly where this question is going. If I catch you, let me know. Yes, but you're talking about it to use a request to exit to open the operator, correct? You know, and you could do that. A lot of times integrators will use, you can actually wire in through the sensor on the actual operator if it's built in, and use that as a request to exit as well. Is that what the question we were asking?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Okay.
If not, ping back and we'll try to do better. Yeah. We'll try to answer it better.
And then Glenn was just asking, I think, you know, Lloyd, you mentioned the list price. It's $5,600. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's list. I mean, that's...
you wouldn't pay that for it.
Right, right.
HL Flake's going to give you a great deal.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. And then Glenn was also asking, does it reverse the sequence depending on which side of the door opener, the door open button is pressed?
Yes,
which side of the door? Yeah.
Yes, it does, because in the sequence scenario, you have A to B, and then you have B to A. So the outside, if the outside was A and the inside was B, and your outside actuator is pushed, it opens A first, then it sequences to B, and then the inside actuator is wired to sequence B to A. So you push the inside, B opens, and then A opens. So yes, you can reverse the sequencing.
Okay. All right. Last question here from Stefan. It is, does the 4600 support PoE, or does it need its own power supply to operate the door opening function?
It needs its own 120 power supply. It does not support PoE.
Got it.
And
thank you.
Access control would be wired into the input portion of the operator. So to integrate it with access control, just like you would integrate it with electrified locks with some kind of actuation to electrified locks, same way with the automatic operator. And there's multiple ways to do it. So when we tie these into things like electrified exit devices, you can either have the power supply for the electrified exit device, have an automatic operator card in it to signal the operator and do the delay there, or you can utilize the technology in the operator to signal the operator first and let the operator signal the power supply to unlock the exit device. So multiple different ways to do it, just depending on what the scenario calls for.
Great. Yeah, thanks. That was it for questions right now.
Okay, yeah, feel free to stop us anytime. So this is, you know, let's not get too far ahead of them if you want. So yeah.
Okay,
right.
Will do.
I'm going to resume. So now we're going to talk about our economy line operator. We mentioned that the 4600 is in the $5,700 range. This operator list price $2,300, so it makes it very economical. Now, this being that, you know, style operator, you don't really want to see this on the front door of a school or a hospital or anything like that, but any light commercial opening, bathrooms, you know, a lot of times in this new environment, they're going to have to go to touchless bathrooms and things. So this is the perfect operator for a storefront commercial door, things like that. It is electromechanical, but you can still go through it manually. It's not that bad, but it's not as easy as an electro-hydraulic. So very simple operator. You can also integrate it with electrified hardware. So in this scenario, we have electric strike hooked up to it. Electric strike is locked. We push an actuator, it unlocks the electric strike, signals the operator. So it also has delay built in. This one is not quite as adjustable as the LCN. The LCN has that digital display, so you can adjust it from one end of the range to the other. This one just has a jumper for delay. So you can delay this one. It has, you can do various adjustments on this as far as when it slows down, the opening speed, the closing speed, the latch position. So this one actually has a latch position as well. It's a pretty quiet operator too. This one has been a really good operator for us for the price point that it's geared at. So it's going to do a steady close then it's going to slow down for the latch. So all of the good operators have some sort of slowdown where you're not slamming the door into the latch position. You can also adjust how long this one stays. It has a hold open adjustment as well. This one also has a feature that surprisingly the LCN one does not, and I'll demonstrate that. Always unplug it first. So it has a dip switch setting for what we call push and go. So once we set the dip switch, then we can power it back up. So once it's powered back up, let it go through an initiation here. So what we mean by push and go on an operator is if somebody comes up to the door and they fail to push the actuator button or whatever, this one you can just kind of start opening the door and it's push and go. So all I did was kind of push on the door and it signaled the operator to push and go. Kind of a nice little feature in this price range operator.
What was the model number?
This one is a Falcon 8200 series. There again, it's a simple operator. There are two versions of it, one for the push side and one for the pull side. So very simple operator. Travis, I think you guys have these.
Yeah, I believe so. And then, so Glenn was asking, what happens if the opening cycle is interfered with? Any chance of damaging the gears?
No, you won't damage it. And there again, low energy. What you're seeing here is low energy. So low energy, as you saw, it cannot exert more than 15 pounds of pressure. So if this in the middle of opening encounters an obstacle, and you see I'm not putting that much pressure on it, it will what's called back off. So you're not going to hurt it. It's not as durable as the other one, but you can, I mean, I can abuse it some. So it's still a pretty durable operator. But there again, low energy. They can't exert more than 15 pounds of pressure. And it won't, once it encounters an obstacle, as you saw, it will stop and then it'll back off.
So Glenn is also asking, so does the addition of an automatic door open function remove the requirement for maximum door pull pounds for ADA purposes?
Absolutely. There's a lot of scenarios for exterior doors where you cannot meet ADA because of the various factors affecting it, wind conditions, pressure, things like that. Installing an automatic operator on that door eliminates all those issues.
Nice. Okay, thanks.
Cool. Any other questions? And I think that's pretty much all that we were going to show at this point. We will make sure and get the toolkit out to you. How do we get that to you, Travis? We get that to you, and then you can.
Yeah, email it to me, and I can forward it to everybody.
Okay.
That's on the call today. If anybody, so if you guys want to do just kind of an open Q&A time, and even for any of the attendees, if you would rather just ask your question live instead of having me read it off, you can hold your hand up, do the raise hand feature, and I'll open up your mic and you guys can ask openly if you want. There is one more question that just came in, and it looks like there are two different Glens. So sorry if I was grouping those together, but do you have any touchless product info that I can put on my website to highlight the new technology as it relates to current events? Yes, I mean, that's what the kit, I believe that Lloyd's talking about. You can take from that and add it to your site.
Absolutely. That info kit is designed for people who want to do e-blasts and things like that. So that will have links to various images and things like that. And feel free to utilize that.
Great. Yes. Any other questions?
I see one up there from Glenn that I don't think we got to. It says, so the remote overrides the close time?
Oh, okay. Was that in the chat?
Yes. Technically, it could, yes. So that we can demonstrate that. If we You have the camera still?
Yeah, I mean, this camera's still up, so I mean, I can aim it, talking about this door right here. I got you, so if it's closing.
So if it's closing like this,
Yeah.
the remote can interrupt it. Absolutely. Same thing if somebody's going through the door, if you have that college scenario and there's a group of students coming through it, the next person coming through it, it may be closing. So as it's closing, the next student comes through and hits the waveless. Whoop, still holding. Got a squeaky hinge. So as it's closing, any of the actuators, so as long as the student is actuating it, it's going to interrupt it and keep it opening. That should answer that one.
Touchless, waterproof.
Touchless waterproof. Yeah, it is to a certain extent, depending on, you know, how well you seal it in the single gang box. So there again, but that touchless, like I said, you got to watch it. If you put it somewhere where rain is going to rain down on it, it's going to actuate it. So does that make sense? So as raindrops are falling in front of it, it is going to signal it to open. So you're going to get an infinity thing going there if you're not careful. And that's what you got to watch out with scanners. You got to really be careful when you put a scanner on the exterior of an automatic door. You got to mount it in such a way that the door opening does not interfere with the scanner and trigger it again, because then you could put it into an endless loop as well. So you kind of have to be careful with scanners on the exteriors of doors. That's why most hospitals will have them, you know, a ways off down the hall and things like that. So just to clarify, the wave to open sensors don't work well in the rain or aren't waterproof. Pretty much so. How do the touchless work? Are they looking for motion? Yes, they are. They have a little PIR built into them. That info toolkit will have a brochure on that touchless actuator. It kind of shows the internal guts to it as well. So it does have an internal PIR built into it. And currently right now, the one we demoed here in our room is only about 3 or 4 inches, but we do have some new ones coming out that will be up to like 1.5 to 2 foot, things like that. So more to follow on that.
And then a question from Andrea about the Falcon Opener.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat the model number and the list price, and then kind of what the common applications are for that? And then also, is it electro-hydraulic?
Yes, the Falcon Operator is not electro-hydraulic. It is electromechanical, because as you saw, it had gears and a belt in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still pretty durable, but it still does have a little more resistance when you open it manually than the 4600 LCN. So the Falcon, the 8231 model number is for the pull side of the door. So that's if you're going to mount the operator on the pull side of the door. And then the 8242 is mounted on the push side of the door. So the difference being, on the pull side, you can't have a double lever arm like you can on a normal closer. You have to have a track arm and a track roller ball scenario, whereas the push side, you have the double lever arm like you see on a standard door closer mounted on the push side. The list price for that Falcon Operator is $2,398. And HL Flake has some good pricing on that operator as well. So it's a very economical price point operator with a lot of good features.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Any other questions?
Can the read range for the touchless sensor be adjusted? They can, especially on the new ones coming out. You can adjust the read range. So there is like a potentiometer kind of scenario in there where you can adjust it, especially on the new ones that have longer range. Yeah. What? Everything is listing Q2, so we have heard some conversation about them, so we hope to have those out sometime in the next month, if not sooner. So everything is in full production as far as the Legion's concerned. We were considered essential business in a lot of scenarios, so we didn't get paused as much as some of the others typically did. So we're still in the in full go mode.
So Andrea was asking about the common applications for that opener.
Sorry about that. For that Falcon Opener, a lot of the more common applications for it is like a mid-range commercial storefront. I've seen them used a lot on restroom scenarios where the restroom has to meet ADA compliance, and due to various walls and things like that, it can't meet it. Really just about any door that's, like I said, just not high traffic, high abuse, like a college campus or a hospital. Really wouldn't want to see it on that kind of scenario. So it's not that it wouldn't hold up under that, but I wouldn't trust it for that. That's not exactly its target market. So I hope that answers that.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Any other questions from the attendees? And again, if somebody wants to ask live, you can raise hand and we'll just open up your mic. Otherwise, Lloyd, I guess you guys have anything else?
Probably not at this point.
Probably not at this point. It was interesting how you guys followed, doing the camera moving around. I think, probably some camera stabilization might be good in the future, but.
Hey, it's on the fly, baby, on the fly.
Yes, it is. I realize that.
We will take that to heart. I agree. Probably made some people dizzy.
Maybe a little bit. What was the model number on that, the Bollard opener, the kick to open switch?
I don't know that right off the top of my head.
Is that included in the touchless documentation?
If not, it's on the website.
Give me a second. I'll dig it.
Yeah.
I can find it.
We have, if you look in our LCN catalog, we have pages and pages and pages of actuators. Bollard actuators. We actually have bollards. We have square ones. We have round ones. We have 4-inch. We have 6-inch. We have radio frequency. We have surface mount. We have single gang. We can make your head spin on actuators. It'll be in the catalog. You won't find it in there probably.
How much time do you guys estimate to do an install on an operator? I know that's pretty general.
Yeah, on the 4600 operator, the first time naturally is going to be a little longer for you, but if you've got power at the door, and depends on if you have to factor in wiring actuators or doing radio frequency for a 4600, and we actually have a video for that online. There's a video, and it's on our YouTube channel that shows the 4600 being installed. If you're interested in that, I would search YouTube for that LCN 4600 install video. But typically, probably the first time is going to be maybe an hour, maybe a little over. There again, it's going to depending on what you're going to run across as far as door material and things like that. So, but probably an hour and a half for the first time, every bit of an hour and a half. But it's, as you saw, it's componentized, so it makes it real easy. When you pull it out of the box, it's in separate boxes. So you grab the base plate, and the instructions are real good about how to measure and how to template for it. And it's very important for you to follow the template on those things. That way you get the correct amount of door opening and things like that. So hope that answers that.
Good. Yeah.
He's scrolling through.
I think we found it. What is that?
I can't read that.
8310, 836T is the part number for a full-length actuator, hardwired low voltage. You can get the TW, which is wireless. So the 8310-836T is wired. The 836TW is wireless. I hope that helps, John.
Good. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I guess if there are no other questions coming in,